I went to the Universal Studios Orlando Resort for 3 days. 2 days in Islands of Adventure and 1 day in Epic Universe. Epic Universe is the new park in Universal Studios, so I made sure to know everything I thought about the park. And that's what this video is about. I'm going to review every ride, discuss every land, and discuss everything I thought about the park. For reviewing the lands, I'm going to go counterclockwise, so in this order. So let's get started with Celestial Park. Celestial Park is the main hub in Epic Universe, and usually I don't really care for main hubs. But Epic does it so well. The water features, the statues, and the two rides are really cool. I didn't get to go on Constellation Carousel, but Stardust Racers is a really cool roller coaster. I might be the only person in the world to like the yellow track better, but I just don't really care for the green track that much. I don't know. You spin on the way down, so it's a lot more thrilling, and you go higher during the Celestial spin. The ride is rough, though. Not Minecraft Madness level rough, but still really rough. I banged my head the first time we rode it, so that was fun. We rode Stardust Racers 3 times in total, 2 times during the day and 1 time at night. I could talk about this ride all day, from the thrill to the soundtrack. But I don't have time for that in this video. This ride gets an 8 out of 10 and a 7 out of 10 for the land. The next land we're going to talk about is How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk. When I was a kid, I loved the How to Train Your Dragon movies, so seeing a whole land themed to the cartoon that I grew up watching is jaw-dropping. This land reminds me of Cars Land because it's so immersive, you just walk into the movie. Anyways, the rides. Hiccup Swing Gliders is the best roller coaster in Epic Universe. Fight me. It's just so comfortable and charming, and it's so smooth. The two launches are really well done, the Toothless animatronic is really cool, and the onboard soundtrack is just a cherry on top. With all that, this ride gets a 9 out of 10, pretty much a perfect coaster. Dragon Racer's Rally is a really weird ride. It reminds me of a carnival. The levers that are supposed to flip you don't even work, and it's also really short and janky. Not to mention the ride's like 30 seconds. There's not much to say about this ride, so I'm just gonna give it a 5 out of 10 and move on. It was like 30 degrees when we went, so we didn't go on fire drill for obvious reasons. So with that, this land gets an 8 out of 10. It's pretty close to being a perfect land. Just to get this out there so I don't get flamed, I am not a Harry Potter fan. I've never read the books or watched the movies, so don't hate me for not knowing anything about Harry Potter. The ride is really good, but it's not like 3-hour wait good. We waited 2.5 hours for this at rope drop, so say goodbye to our morning. I'm pretty sure once we stepped foot off that ride, me and my brothers never came into the land again. Other than that, there's nothing about this ride that I really love. It's heavily screen-based like Forbidden Journey, but at least Forbidden Journey has like big breaks where there's physical sets. And if we look outside the ride, this land is not great. It's just a big city that's so clearly faked. I love lands that have physical sets and like actual props, not giant cardboard cutouts. Anyways, the ride gets a 7 out of 10 because the queue is really cool. It's the biggest queue I've ever seen. And for the land, 4 out of 10. Other than the ride, this land is nothing but a big fake city. Next up is Dark Universe, and this is gonna get a high ranking. Before we get into the rides, I just want to say they created this land perfectly. The manor towering over the whole land of Darkmoor right when you step into the land is just insane to look at. The only stuff we actually did in Dark Universe were ride the rides. But the aesthetic of the land already puts it higher than Ministry of Magic. Let's start with Curse of the Werewolf. Right off the bat, this ride gave us a pretty big headache before we even stepped into the queue. Because when we got there, the single rider queue had just closed and the standby queue was over a 70-minute wait. If you don't already know, we've had some pretty bad luck with single rider this entire trip. If you want to know more about that, you can watch my video about our unlucky experience with Minecraft Madness. The queue for the ride is a bit boring because it's just a kind of like a courtyard, but the actual ride is really cool. The spinning wasn't too intense and the back and forth section was pretty fun. The one complaint I have for the ride is that it's really short. It's like a 40-second ride. Not to mention it's tucked deep inside of Dark Universe, so it's kind of hard to find. Curse of the Werewolf gets a 7.5 out of 10. Next is Monsters Unchained, and you guys are going to want to strap yourselves in because this is going to be a very long review. I don't want to spend half the video talking about this ride, so I'm going to make a separate video rambling about and talk about everything. So I guess this won't be a very long review. I had pretty high expectations for this ride, so I didn't know too much what to expect. Not to mention this was the only ride I hadn't watched a POV before we went, so this was going in completely blind. And we ran right to this ride right after getting off of Battle of the Ministry, so we went from a alright ride to a ride that we had extremely high expectations for. So in we went, rode the ride, and when we came out, I had one thing on my mind. This is the best dark ride of all time. I want most of my reviews to go towards the video I'm going to make, so I'm just going to say that my favorite part of the ride is everything past the second Dracula animatronic. After just not much of what I've said, I already decided this ride is a 10 out of 10, and I haven't even mentioned the queue, but I'll save that for the separate video. This entire land gets a 9 out of 10 for obvious reasons. The final land I want to talk about is actually in two parts. It's Super Nintendo World and Donkey Kong Country. Now, the main reason I left this for last is because I knew this was going to be the longest review for the land. Let's start with the Mario rides, Mario Kart and Yoshi's Adventure. Mario Kart's an alright ride, it's just a simulator with physical sets. Much like Harry Potter, the queue is basically the best part of the ride. The physical sets aren't that impressive, but that's because they're not the main focus. Instead, the main focus is the AR glasses. I'm not the biggest fan of 4D and 3D rides, because I don't want to just know the ride through a screen or POV. So this ride gets a 6 out of 10. Next up is Yoshi's Adventure, and this ride had the best idea, but the worst execution. The icon is really cool, if the buttons actually worked. I had no idea how to work it, so it just became a Super Nintendo World Omni Mover. The queue is really cool though, it's cute and it also fits a lot of Yoshi's Adventure references. Super Nintendo World seems to have a recurring theme where the queue is better than the actual ride. Anyways, this ride gets a 7 out of 10 for the good premise. That's it for the Mario rides, but now we're going to talk about the Mario minigames. I didn't get to do the block punch musical thing, but I did get to do the slot machines, and they're alright, but they're a bit confusing. For the actual key minigames, first is Piranha Plant Nap Mishap. This minigame needs you to turn off all the alarm clocks before the giant piranha plant wakes up. This minigame is definitely my favorite out of all of them. It's so fun, and it's just a big exercise with it being challenging and also stressful at the same time. Next is Koopa Trooper Power Punch. That was really hard to say in one take. You win this by hitting one of the power blocks and it causing a chain reaction to the others. When the chain is done, you have to hope the last block hits the shell and causes the Koopa Trooper guy to knock over. I'm probably the best at this game because you can kind of just study how fast the chain reaction is and hit it based on that information. Thwomp Panel Panic is probably my least favorite out of all of them. It's literally just one of those ads you see in the App Store. Goomba Crazy Crank is probably the funniest out of all of them. You have to crank the handle to knock over the Goomba in the given time. And finally, Kabam Boom Room, or whatever it's called. Much like Yoshi's Adventure, this had great idea, but not a good execution. The hard part about this is that to win the game, you have to slide your finger across quickly to put all the pieces together. But it's kind of hard to do so when you can get blisters from doing it. Next to Super Nintendo World is Donkey Kong Country. I've already talked about Minecart Madness in a separate video, and since that's the whole point of the land, there isn't much to talk about here. But to cut most of it out, Minecart Madness is the most overrated ride in the park. Next to the two mini games in this land. I didn't get to do Rambeat's Bongo Breakout, but my brother did, and he said it was fun, so I'll take his word for it. I did get to do the slot machine in there, and it's pretty fun to try and see what you can get. Other than that, there wasn't much else I did. And here's the ranking of all the mini games in Super Nintendo World and Donkey Kong Country. The final thing I want to talk about Epic Universe is what I ate. The very first thing I ate in Epic Universe was lunch at Toadstool Cafe. Yeah, I didn't have breakfast or an early snack, but I mean, you can't blame us. Our first 2.5 hours of the park were stuck in line for Harry Potter. I'm not even joking. We got in line about 9:40 and then exited the queue at around 12. Anyways, back to food. Me and my brothers went to Toadstool Cafe to eat lunch while my parents went to Dark Universe and ate whatever they ate there. The stuff I ate at Toadstool Cafe were the Fireflower Spaghetti, the Toadstool Cheesy Garlic Knots, and the Mount Beanpole Cake. Everything I had there was amazing. The spaghetti was delicious and the meatballs had a lot of flavor. The cheesy garlic knots were cheesy, obviously, and really good. And of course the Mount Beanpole Cake was the best thing I had there. Me and my brothers got one to share, but we loved it so good we got a second one.
Because I'm a big back.
Other than Toadstool food, I technically had one other thing. I got the banana drink from Donkey Kong Country with the DK barrel. But here's the thing. I'm allergic to banana, so the only reason I got the drink was for the souvenir cup. And I love banana, but I had to give it to my brother for him to enjoy. Last time I had banana was about 6 months ago to see if I still had the allergy, and I did. I don't die if I eat banana, it's just my throat feels like it's getting strep or something like that. I don't know how to explain it well. So pretty much I had one meal in 12 hours during that trip. In conclusion, Epic Universe is one of the best parks I have ever been to. But don't hold me to that because it's between Epic Universe and Islands of Adventure. I don't know what's better, but that's a discussion for another video. This is the ranking of all the rides. Again, here's the ranking of all the Super Nintendo World minigames, plus Donkey Kong Country. Thank you for watching this longer than normal video, and as always, peace.